Welcome to the Your Family Dog podcast, where we celebrate the special bond between families and their canine companions. Our goal is to help families and dogs grow up together, one episode at a time. Welcome back to this episode of Your Family Dog podcast. Today, I'm joined by Heather Beck from Heather's Heroes, and I can't wait to tell you about the products that they offer that truly are an amazing, kind solution to pulling issues. Heather, oh my goodness, I am beside myself with enthusiasm. Your products are changing the world for dogs and their families, and I can't wait to talk about it. So can you tell us a little bit about you?
Oh, well, Tina, thank you so much. I am very honored to be asked to come and hang out with you. And it just makes me super happy to hear your feedback. And I'm looking forward to talking about it today. But yeah, I'm Heather. I started Heather's Heroes. Well, it actually started because of a TV show. I had the leash. It was the Canine Lifeline Transitional Leash. And then we were featured on a TV show called The Prophet in 2021 with Marcus Lemonis. And he had me change the name, and we changed the name of the tool itself, just for a little bit better branding and marketing, and then also to kind of separate it a little bit more from my brick and mortar facility, which was called Canine Lifeline. So Canine Lifeline was my stomping grounds, my training grounds for 22 years. I sold that in December, and daily at Canine Lifeline, we had about 100 to 160 dogs a day for boarding, training, and daycare. And so this is, our tools and techniques, everything is very well vetted. We see, a lot of dogs that we got to work with,
Right.
a lot of struggling clients, a lot of struggling, dogs. So we really had our hands in there and really got to work with thousands upon thousands of dogs, being able to develop this actual tool and come to, where we are today to have Heather's Heroes. And then previous to that, I worked as an animal control officer. I also ran a large breed and pit bull rescue for many years. So I've pretty much never had, well, I have never had another job that did not revolve around animals and dogs and helping them and their humans. So
I
that's
love
me.
that. I love that. I want to talk about a little bit about the progression in dog training, right? So I trained my first dog in 1979, right? So before you were probably born.
I was born
And
in 77, so I
oh,
was
you were two. Perfect. Well, I was in 4-H, right? That's how,
love 4-H. Same. I did horses, so
right.
yes.
Well, and
4-H.
I would have loved to do horses, but my family did dogs. So I
Mhm.
took our little family dog, Penny, the Jack Russell, who was like as wide as she was tall, to a basic obedience class. And the first thing they told me was that I had to put a choke collar on her to help with leash training. Now I was 9, so I did
Yeah.
what the
And that
grown-ups
well,
said,
and that was what was
and that
out.
was the tool.
And that was it. That was
And she
the
didn't even really pull on leash. Like, that was just like, "Oh, you're in a training class, here's the equipment you're gonna wear." Right?
yeah,
And I can remember bringing treats, and they were like, "You don't need those." So,
yeah.
basically, that training, my introduction to training was good dogs did what you asked them to do, and if they didn't do it, we did mean things until they did what we asked them to do, and then we told them they were a good dog. Thank goodness that ship has sailed, and I don't live in that world, nor will I, because there are so much better ways. So from kind of choke chains came prong collars when my parents started breeding and showing Doberman pinschers in the 80s,
Yep.
because you were told, like, that's a big, powerful dog. You need to control them. Now, never mind that none of our dogs had any reactivity whatsoever. They were all sweetness and light. So we were just being heavy-handed for no good reason, right? But it created this belief that if I didn't use these tools, I was somehow being a bad owner, and my dog would, like, suddenly become some psychotic beast that was gonna be murderous. Thank goodness the Gentle Leader came out. And when the Gentle Leader came out, I was an early adopter. It was a game changer in the industry. It gave us a new way to think, and to my mind was like an amazing recognition that horse technology works in dogs, that where the pointy end goes, the rest follows, right? So instead of attaching to the strongest part of the dog, we attach to the nose to go, hey, by the way, there's somebody back here who maybe is a bit relevant. And
Yes.
now, y'all, now there's the sidekick. And I'm going to tell you, you should, like a bright light, an angel light should shine on Heather, and the angels should sing. And the dogs that I have the honor to work with, the families I get to serve, are richly blessed. And I didn't find your product. One of my Yorkie clients
Oh, I love that.
found your toy breed Sidekick, and I was like, what is that? Holy guacamole. I need this.
Oh, I
So
love that. I
talk
love
a
that.
little bit about harnesses, collars, gentle leader, Sidekick, and kind of how this ecosystem of tools works and the advantages of your product.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, we have very similar kind of backgrounds and history, but not, I didn't have a dog growing up. So, but I worked with horses. So I actually worked at a summer camp for a long time. I started off there. I absolutely loved horses. So that's how I did get involved with 4-H, was working with horses, and showing horses and that kind of stuff. But that led me into, when I went to college, I went from Wisconsin to Utah, and I went to college, and obviously I couldn't have a horse in my dorm room. So
Bummer.
yeah. So I started looking through the paper and actually found an ad for an adoption event coming up at our local mall. And they were looking for volunteers. And so I was like, oh, this is me, like I could do this. So I went and volunteered at my very first event, and it was literally downhill from there. Like, I was there every weekend. I started volunteering. As soon as I had a place that I could foster dogs, I started fostering dogs.
Nice.
So I also fostered over 1,500 dogs through my own home.
Holy
So
guacamole.
yeah, and I've owned personally over 35 dogs in my adulthood, because I didn't have a dog growing up. This was like from my very
Right.
first dog named Beast, through to my youngest puppy I have now, which is Zoe. And most of my adult life, I had 6 dogs. Usually, like, I would have 6 dogs. So I would have pit bulls, I would have large breeds. I have a lot of three-legged and two-legged dogs. I love anything missing eyes as well. So I've had some
Right.
blind.
Anything named Lucky.
Yes, anything named Lucky, come to my house. If they're brindle, oh, total sucker. So,
Oh, see, and I don't have any, but I am a total sucker for Blue Merle.
oh, yeah, see,
Like,
you got
oh,
yeah,
it just makes my heart melt
yeah, they usually would just come home with me to be fostered, and then
and
they
then
would,
never leave. Yes,
yes,
I have
uh,
4,
there you go. Yeah,
and that's
I'm
and none of them did I pick out.
yeah, that never happens. That never happens. But yeah, so as it kind of progressed, like, so when I was working in the shelters and rescues and running my own rescue, I could go to any class I wanted. Everyone was like, "Oh, if you have a foster dog, you can come to any class you want." So I was going to, these obedience classes, and honestly, Tina, I couldn't understand how this learning worked. Like, I was like, "I don't get it. The dogs don't get it. It works kind of in class when I'm, like,
Kinda,
doing
sorta,
this."
not really.
It was not translatable. So then I found the Halti. So
Ah,
my progression started with the Halti, where I was like, "Oh, this is very similar to a halter for a horse." And working with horses, we do use pressure and release. That's very similar. So I used everything that I learned with horses, into dogs. And being able to, kind of bring that over to it. And with the Halti, I started finding these issues. Like issues like, the biggest complaint that people always have is that it comes from the bottom of the head. They're very worried about their dog lunging forward or turning the dog's head to the side. And both the Halti and the gentle leader were created to turn the head. I mean, that's what
yes, that's one
they're
of the advantages, I would say, when you're dealing with a reactive dog
yeah,
or
100%.
a very fearful dog.
Yes, which is mostly what I work with. So,
Being able to turn the head and go, "Hey, I know that's scary over there. I'll watch it. You've got me. I've got your back. Like, we're just gonna turn your head and we're gonna pretend the scary snake isn't there." So,
look,
the advantage of being able to say, "Hey, don't look at that deer," whether it's a horse, because I used to ride a horse that would sneak up on deer and poke them in the butt and thought it was funny,
Gosh, fun.
which is very dangerous during rut. Um,
Yeah, mhm.
and then, of course, like right now, my goobery 4-year-old, 90-pound bag of elbows Doberman, when he is surprised by a deer, leaps into my arms to protect him.
Save me, mom.
Save me, mom. It's a big, scary dog. Um,
Yes,
but being able to turn the head, I would say sometimes is an advantage, but for goodness
yes.
sakes, like I should be able to say the dog's name and turn their head. So
Absolutely, and that's my point is that it's always such a like, that was such a huge complaint of people that hadn't worked with the tool, that haven't worked with it. So it's people talking in theory, saying that, and I just never had that issue. I just, I've never, of the thousands upon thousands of dogs that we trained on the Halti, there was never an issue, and you would think that, okay, there's millions upon millions of dogs that had had head collars on, and everybody who is opposed to this can tell you a story of a story of a story of a friend of a friend of a friend whose dog broke their neck with this tool. And it's
but
like,
have they? I've
exactly,
never
that's
I
what
mean,
I
like,
mean.
you would
Yeah.
have to be you would have to make a pretty substantial number of errors, right? It would have to be something like
And the
the
dog
dog
would
is on a long line.
self hurtful to do that too. Like the
Right,
dog to be so willing to hurt themselves on purpose to do that as well. And I'm not downplaying that it couldn't happen, but I
right.
have ever see
But
it.
but no one's in theory, no one's yanking on that, nor should they be.
Well, they do. I mean, people do, and
I
no, this
know.
is a good. This is where we'll get to why the Sidekick is so awesome is because you don't have to worry about it in novice hands. So that, like that whole thing with the Halti, that was one of the big issues. Also, sizing was an issue. You know,
Yes.
same thing with the gentle leader. The sizing is you have to have. We would carry size. We would usually carry 1 to 3, but there's also 0 to 5 in the Halti. So there's all these sizes, so we have to carry all these sizes, and then you get these dogs, like, in between
Or in
sizes.
between. Right,
Yeah,
it's like the 3 little bears, like, this bed's too
yes,
big, this bed's too small.
yes,
I
yes.
didn't like the Halti because it fit abominably. Like, I was like, "Okay, this just is sloppy and messy, and I don't like it." So I loved the adjustability of the gentle leader, except for all of the dogs who had a muzzle that was bigger around than it was long.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
now you can't fit it unless you add a piece of, ribbon that goes from the noseband and a piece of Velcro on the buckle to attach another piece of Velcro so that it holds their glasses up so that they're not pulling the noseband down, rendering it useless. I
this, like,
have needle and thread in my drawer to make
fit.
a gentle leader fit correctly for
Right.
the dogs who have a muzzle that is not shaped for how the gentle leader fits.
Yeah, and I would say for why you prefer the gentle leader and why I prefer the Halti, the reasons is probably just in our training styles. Like for me, I actually wanted the Halti to have that very significant pressure on and pressure off through the communication of the leash. And I did not necessarily want to turn the dog's head. And that's very reflective in the design of the Sidekick because what
Yes.
I is I want the dog to be able to calm down enough to be able to look at the things that makes it
Yes.
comfortable. And so that and I actually even got to meet, Dr. Roger Monkford. He gave me a copy of his book. That's who invented the Halti. And so we had a great conversation about, I was like, "Well, why did you change it?" Because they changed the design, and for me, that was the big trigger point of really just leaning into the Sidekick more. And it was already at full development, like, it was already the product that it is now. But when they changed the design of the Halti, to me, it became very ineffective. Like, because that's all he wanted it to do was to turn the head, and I was like, "Ah," but I really liked being able to close the mouth. I really liked to be able to apply pressure when I needed it and to be more communicative with that tool. And when the redesign happened, is that all went away. So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, this just kind of brings me into a lane of, because
This tool doesn't do what I need it to
no,
do
it
for my training style.
yes, exactly. So
And
it
to
is
be
so
clear, like I wasn't turning a dog's head harshly,
oh,
right?
not
It
at
was
all,
it
no.
was more like in that in between of training where the person is taking the dog for a walk and suddenly there's like, whatever that dog's dragon is. I tell people all the time, like, our dog is a character, we're a character, and the environment is a character in the story, and we don't control the environment,
Yes,
right? And
100%.
so we can plan. You could be walking in a cemetery, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden a deer shows up that you didn't know was there, that sends your dog into the ionosphere. And so being able in an emergency
Yes.
to turn the head and go, whoa, 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 hold on, let's get our brain together,
Yep.
was like for emergency kind of situations. I was
Abs
not, to be clear, turning heads all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm working all the time to keep that dog sub threshold, to teach the dog, like,
Absolutely.
hey, when you're in doubt, turn and look at me. I got you. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I do a ton of look at that from Leslie McDivitt. I
That
love her exercises where I'm like, no, I want you to look at, and the owners, the handlers who have dogs that are reactive are like, no, 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 no. Don't have him look at the dog. I'm like, we're gonna have him look
they
at the
have to
dog.
learn. They have to learn. They
They
have
have to learn that, like, they can look and they can have big feelings even,
Yeah.
but they don't get to express them with
Yes,
their teeth.
100%. Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, basically all the goals are the same. All the goals are the same. And it's just basically, I mean, how this kind of came about was I had a dog come in. I remember this dog's name specifically. Her name was Matilda, and she was an old English bulldog. So she still had a lot of face, but very, very human and dog aggressive. Like
Oh, wow.
aimed at elimination. This is a very rare I rarely say those terms because I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh my gosh, my dog is so aggressive," but it's like
No, your dog's reactive.
yeah, so this is one of those dogs that truly wanted to kill, eliminate,
Yes.
cause damage, I mean, she was very serious, and so after just days of not being able to get a tool on her, I'm just working her, just trying to get a relationship with her, I could not get the halty on her because it didn't fit right,
Right.
and then trying to clip anything behind her head
Forget
was
about it.
yeah, a no-go. So I had just been working with her, just literally just walking her on the slip lead, just getting her comfortable being around me and eliminating that, and trust me, she didn't want to fly away. She wanted to come at you. So it was more of a
Right, you're
thing.
like, "I wish my arm was 18-inch longer."
Yes, yeah. So it was, it was really tricky even working with her. And then, after about 3 days, I'd gotten enough of a relationship with her that it just popped into my mind this figure eight method that we would do in animal control.
Right,
And we could use it as a temporary muzzle. So we would use the
right,
figure eight, then we would wrap the rest of the leash around the muzzle. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I could do that with this dog, that I could just do this figure eight and get something on the dog's face. And in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to get her comfortable with something being on her face. Because at this point, I was still using the leash and like using the handle of the leash to touch her head and her face. So I was like, well, if I can just get something on her face, then eventually I can just switch it over to the halty, like get
right,
a
you were
better
still like, "I can go to the tool I use
yeah,
most
I
often."
just need something to put on her face. And then, I put that on her face and then I started using it the same way that I had conditioned the halty. And I was like, oh, 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 this is
Oh,
great. This is great.
oh.
Like this is awesome, and so then I just started working with that a little bit more, and obviously I was still working with the Halti a bunch, at that time, and, just kinda kept working with that, and then added up, like, "Hey, it has to have a safety on it because if this dog's gonna back out of it, it's coming right off," and with the Halti, I
Right,
was very
and then
used
I'm gonna be lunch, and then
yeah,
I
I was
can't help anybody else.
exactly, and I was very used to having the safety from on the halty to the collar, so I just put a floating ring onto the slip collar. I started making them like that, and then went down, eventually ended up putting in the S hook because I wanted the safety to be integrated. I also didn't like how the floating ring and the way that when it was on a figure eight, the way that it hits the chin is just not right. It's just not it causes too much friction. It can cause problems, and I didn't like that. So
Right,
then
it
and then
could
if
be really uncomfortable.
yeah, and if you have a floating ring or something that's not meant to be on the rope, it can just rub in wrong ways. So
Right.
I just want everything integrated and smooth, and that's where, the final design of the Sidekick came to be, and it is patented, it's design patented and utility patented. So that's got some pretty heavy work behind it and a lot of money. I don't know if you know how much money it costs to actually
Oh, a
patent some
patent is unbelievable,
yeah,
and
it's
what
very
I would say is, so customers,
Mhm.
listeners, patrons, if you're hearing about this and you're thinking, oh, I'll just go get the $13 knockoff, I'm going to promise you that that will be miserable and awful, and don't do it. Like, I love you. There are some things that it's worth every penny and more.
Yeah. And you don't wanna compromise your dog's safety, health, feel. You just
Yes.
don't wanna compromise for that. And even, like, as we were progressing in manufacturing, because I was making these for a long time myself,
Right.
and when we started being able to work with larger manufacturers, it made a huge difference where I could pick out the rope. Like, I specifically picked out a quality of rope and, I had to go back and forth. It's much softer than what we started with, but it also will fray a little bit easier sometimes.
I
So
have
then
noticed that.
yeah,
But
so
you
then
know what? I don't care.
I kinda had to come back into the middle a little bit. So there's some variations kinda out there that are really, really much looser and much softer, and then we kinda came back into the middle, but I just didn't wanna compromise how it felt on the dog's face. And if you are
And
using,
how it feels on your hands.
100%. And if you're using something that isn't meant to go on a dog's face, you're taking that risk. Like,
Yes.
you're taking that risk of the dog being uncomfortable, leaving marks, hurting the dog, just don't do it. I mean, I specifically designed this to go on the dog's face. And when people say that, "Oh, I can just do this with that," it's like, "Well, yeah, that's kind of how I started, but that's why I made it better and developed it to be better because I knew that it wasn't safe or comfortable for my dog or for myself."
Right.
So, yeah, and those aren't the people I really wanna reach. I want the people that really care about their animals and their well-being and how they feel and how the outcome of the training is gonna be, and that's gonna come with high quality
Well,
tools and
and
tech.
okay. And I think about it like the people who say to me, like, oh, well, the shock collar or the prong collar or the blah, 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 this other aversive tool, um, I can fix it with this. And I'm like, okay. So this is what I usually ask them. I'm like, name something that you despise. And now I want you to explain to me how making you more uncomfortable in the presence of this thing that you are profoundly uncomfortable with will make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, right? Like, being adding more discomfort to an animal that's having really big feelings that they're not able to manage,
Yes.
I fail to see how that is helpful.
I do get a lot of, we've chatted about this a little bit, is that I have used all sorts of tools.
Yeah,
I've
me
used
too.
all sorts of tools, and I work very diligently to make sure that I understand all those tools so that when I am talking about the sidekick and how I know how effective it is for even the most powerful, the most difficult, the most reactive dog, that I know that this is a tool that doesn't have to overpower in an uncomfortable way. It
Yes.
really, and when you have a dog that has big feelings about things, when they have big feelings about things, usually the pendulum on the other side is they're super sensitive.
Right.
So you take a sensitive dog, the best thing that you can do for that dog is to start respecting that sensitivity,
Okay.
working with sensitivity. And for me, the sidekick it's so much more about patience than pressure, than harshness, than, being an aversive. It really is about matching that dog's sensitivity level so that they're more comfortable to trust you and respect you and build a better relationship with you. And that is the whole preface behind it. When somebody comes to me and they're like, "Well, I can do that with the prong collar, I can do it with the e-collar." I say, "No, you can't.
You
You
can't.
absolutely cannot." And the difference is that the mind shift that a tool like the Sidekick makes with the head collar, this pressure point across the bridge of the nose, the difference in the mind shift that pressure point makes, you can never create with the prong, the harness, the e-collar, the martingale, the slip lead. You can never recreate that with any other tool. And until people actually train 4 or 5 dogs on this tool, they're not gonna understand it. And they're working in theory. They just think that the dog is just under pressure all the time,
And
and
they're
that pressure,
not.
like, they're not. The dog starts to understand where they need to be, what needs to happen, and they start to
Yes.
respect. They go, "Oh, you've got this. Like, you've got this." And it also gives such good leverage in some of those very scary times.
Yeah.
Like, if If somebody is under a lot of pressure and all of a sudden something like that happens and the dog is on the prong or the e-collar and you start, popping a lot and increasing pressure or turning up the collar, that doesn't calm the dog.
No,
When you are inadvertently
you're
increasing, not
escalating.
yes, but with this, the pressure, even in novice hands, the pressure of this tool will help them to calm down, even in the most novice hands. For reactivity, aggression, fear, anxiety, the Sidekick is a far superior tool. Far superior.
So I'd go further. I would say that the Sidekick has created a scenario where those tools are not necessary for the average family. The Sidekick is such an elegant answer that I think people just need to invest and try it. So, talk to me about how you recommend conditioning, because there is a little bit of conditioning. The dog is having a different experience in
Mm.
their body, in their nervous system with a Sidekick. Explain to me how you condition a Sidekick.
Okay, and this is the fun thing about the Sidekick is it does pair with so many types of styles and training. I have my way that I train with it. Just like I said, I was at the APDT conference and everybody that came up to me was very curious and are definitely more in the positive reinforcement side of training. I do use pressure and release in my training when I'm starting with the Sidekick. And
So do positive reinforcement based
that's
trainers. They're just not going to say it out loud because they don't
100%.
want to get attacked. Like
Yes, I agree.
you can't play hot cold with only hot.
Yes,
Like,
100%.
and
And
that's
that,
why I often say I'm a Lima trainer, least
yep,
invasive, minimally aversive, or to give you a more traditional, regular language, as gentle as I can possibly be, but as firm as I need to be.
yeah. Yeah, and normally when dogs are coming into me, they're coming into me overtouched, overtalked, overstimulated.
Yes.
So the first thing that I teach with the Sidekick is literally just sit calmly next to me. So I literally teach calm. That is the first step in my process is getting the dog to understand the tool just sitting calmly next to me. So what I'm looking for is I get the tool on, which, it you can do that a
It's
million different ways. You can
it's
use
so
food.
much easier.
Yeah, you can use whatever way you want, but once the tool's on,
So do you
I'll
usually start with put the neck piece on first, or do you start with the nose piece?
usually if it's a dog that I haven't worked with, I put the neck piece on and then I'm just gently holding the dog's collar and then I will put the nose piece on
Right.
and then I adjust it. And then for
Mhm.
me, how I start is I just have them sit calmly with me. So if the dog is standing up, because for me, kind of working through some of that fuss and fight, you'll learn a lot about the dog through that process and what they're putting up. Because man, if you've got a little dog that has been spoiled, 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 that dog is gonna absolutely say, "No way, this is not the relationship we're gonna have. I'm not interested in this." And so it can be a little bit challenging. So what I do is I just kinda let them do their thing. I'm not trying to force them into anything. I'm literally just holding I usually say about the weight of an apple or the weight of your cell phone. I'm not trying to increase pressure, but what I'm waiting for, letting them kind of work through this process to figure it out. What I'm waiting for is for them to go in either into a sitting or laying down position. I'm just staying quiet and calm. Like for me, I don't want to add more fuel to the fire because I'm looking to create calm through the tool. And so I'm letting the tool do the talking. So once they go into one of those positions, I immediately release pressure. That is the reward through my process. At this point, I don't say good job, good dog, good this, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that energy back up again. And what I want to create between the both of us is just, hey, I'm giving you calm guidance right now. And all I want you to do is chill out next to me. And that's it. So that's usually kind of my first starting points. And then once I get the dog sitting calmly next to me, and in my opinion, if you cannot get a dog sitting calmly next to you, you're gonna really struggle to get them walking with you,
Yes, and
you
I
know?
will also say they also don't come when called,
Right.
and you
They d
can't get their attention, and that's part of what, Heather and I were talking about before we went live recording. Sorry, guys. There is always inside baseball. Um, but it's that while this is marketed as a fix your dog's pulling tool, Heather and I, love you enough to say that is not actually the problem you have.
No, it's not, and it's the least
It's a
magical.
symptom.
Yeah, it's the least magical thing that the Sidekick does. This is more about an entire training ecosystem, an entire mind shift for the dog, an entire shift in the
And the
relationship.
person.
Yeah,
That what
uh,
leadership mean doesn't mean control.
right,
It
or
means
being hard.
advocacy.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so keep
Yeah,
going, sorry. So I do add cookies, like, I add treats to the process,
and I am
just
not the gatekeeper, so you do you.
yeah, like, I open up the neck loop, and I ask the dog to volunteer sticking their head through it,
Great, I love it. Yeah,
right? And then I switch, and I open up the nose loop. So now the neck loop is loose,
yep,
is done, and I'm like, "Hey, can you stick your nose in the hole?" Right? I call that big bird, like, "Hey, could you big bird?" And they're like, "Okay, I could do the big bird."
yeah,
I do all sorts of funny stuff, like, I get out, like, a small, like, cone, like,
yep,
for, like, a kid's soccer game, and I'm
uh-huh,
like, "Can you big bird in this? Can you big bird in this coffee cup? Can you big bird in this yogurt container that still has
yep,
my blackberry yogurt in it?" And then I begin we're gonna put this on your neck. It's gonna feel kinda like a regular collar or slip leash, depending on where I've locked it. And then I'm like, "Hey, and now we're gonna add the big bird paw." And it
I'm the
does take longer,
yeah,
probably. Um, but I get a dog who there's less conflict over it.
yeah,
Eventually, I do get to the, like, "Okay, you can take this pressure off yourself by just
yeah, yeah.
relaxing, like, I got you."
Yes. Yeah, and they do, eventually, no matter what, like, how you start with it, at some point, the dog's gonna give you a little bit of pushback, and
Mhm.
that's normal, and so however you kind of start with it, that pushback for me is really just the dog kind of just testing the waters a little bit. I mean, dogs innately, that's just what they do.
And
So
it's information.
absolutely, and all you're doing is just giving clear guidance, and I will tell you, dogs love information, they love clear guidance, and the tool helps to do that. Once they start understanding the conditioning, right? Like how it works, why it's there, then we start walking. So if we start walking and moving and they feel, we kind of get to any point where there's a little bit of pressure on the leash, I just stop again, get them back into that sitting position, um, have them
Do you
chill out there.
ask for it or are you waiting for it?
No, not at this point because I kinda go a little bit backwards because I will say that just like I said, most dogs are coming to me, they've already been told sit 1,000
Mhm.
times, they've already been told off,
And
they're
it's
over.
been a predictor of bad stuff.
Exactly. So I kinda come in with a very different vibe for the dog, and then down the road, like, once I've created the picture because sit for me probably looks very different than sit for a lot of people because sit for me, I want that to be that lowering position of mind and body are connected, not just the physical position of a sit where their mind is way ahead of them. Their mind is chasing the squirrel, their mind is already shut out the door, I want the mind and body connected. So that's kind of the deeper effect that the head collar actually helps to create that other tools really struggle to create is they can easily create the physical position, but it's very hard to get the mental, capacity together at one point. So that's what I really love about the difference with a sidekick. But pretty quickly, I mean, once you've kind of gone through that fuss and you kind of teach calm, then we start walking. Then we start walking. And for me, that has always been when I work with other trainers, I do have a certification program and I train other trainers and I've done workshops and shadow programs for 20 years, in-person workshops where I'm training people how to handle their dogs and I'm helping them start their dogs on this tool. And the biggest struggle that people have is they just rush it. They just rush that initial process too much and they just rush into the walk where then they're compromising the tool already.
So Colleen Pilar, one of the originators of the podcast, talks about lump and lunge, right? So she's like, okay, and I think every trainer, especially new trainers or novice dog owner or someone with a dog with big feelings is like, okay, we did it right 3 times. Now we're going to go from A to not Z, but we're gonna go easily to, like, I or J, and the dog's like, "Hey, you lost your learner about 17 letters ago,
Mhm.
because I was on, like, negative I, right?
Well, and I tell people do not move forward until your dog's ready. Like, don't walk until you get that calm demeanor or at least as calm as you can get from what
Right,
you.
the connection.
Yeah, because as that's what I'm reinforcing is the calmer mindset because the dog naturally wants to move. So I'm in my training, I'm really trying to get them to understand that they don't get to do the things that they want to do until they're calm. So once they're calm or calmer, then we get to move forward. Then we get to eat. Then we get to go sniff and smell over there. Then we get to do these things.
Well,
So
this isn't any different than letting your child out of the car in a parking lot.
right, exactly. Yes. Yep. Same
Like, it's
concept.
exactly the same thing. I want my dog to be joyful and happy and enthusiastic and
100%. Yeah.
excited to see his friends and to wanna go frolic and play. I want all of that awesome. I just don't want you to get hit by a bus in the process or to pull down my mom
Yeah.
who's doesn't have great balance.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we have to keep it between the navigational beacons.
Yeah, well, and
So
that's what training is for, is to be able to start at the beginning, to have structure, to have guidance, to have, that reliability so that those freedoms come, as the dog's behavior gets better. I mean,
and as they're
that's
able to cope.
absolutely, and that's the ultimate goal. And it when I have people come in, the first appointment, and they, oh, well, how long do they have to wear this thing? And I'm like, it's up to you. Like, it's up to you. It's up to the dog. I have zero ego about that. Like, for a lot of trainers, that's a standard is, can you get them off? Like, yes, I believe that training is our pathway to freedom. And, how we get there is great. But when you're in a scary situation or you're in a situation where you want to keep yourself and your dog safe, these people would come back into me 5, 10 years later because we also run Saturday socialization classes and then a handling class on Sunday. So they're still coming in with that tool on 5 and 10 years later. 10 years later, just because it feels better for them and it feels better for the dog, and they just know, like, hey, this just is better. Like, I'm not having the same issues that I would have if I tried to lessen the tool or the technique, or and I want them to feel comfortable. The dog feels more comfortable and they feel more comfortable. So I don't care how long people use it. I don't care if they want to get off of the tool, they can. It's the whole point of it being transitional is that you can go from the head collar down to the slip collar down to a flat collar to
Yes.
whatever. It doesn't
I
matter.
love that it's shift on the fly. So the
Yeah.
example I use for my customers when we're talking about it is, let's say you're just on your average walk
Yep.
and there's not any big feelings about anything, then I'm just going to use it like a regular leash on a flat collar or a martingale. And
Yeah.
then if all of a sudden the neighborhood kids are having bike races that I did not anticipate, because hey, kids are going to be kiddos, then I might stop for a moment. The dog's already familiar with
Yep.
the tool, switched it to a head collar position to give the dog a little more support of
100%.
like, we've got this. And by the way, I'm also going to be breaking out, my cheese or my hot dog or my chicken or my Ziwi Peak or whatever it is I have with me, because I do walk with treats,
Mhm.
because scary stuff can happen.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
and when
dog isn't resenting switching
no.
on the fly. It's saying to them, like, I'm like, "You're right. There are a bunch of kids racing on their bikes and their scooters. Let's get ready. Let's prepare for what we're about to do."
Right.
And to be clear, sometimes that means just watching
Yeah.
and giving that dog the support to the exposure and then saying, "You know what, buddy? Let's go the opposite way. That's okay." Like, we don't have to walk past that if
Right.
it's scary.
Yeah.
And like, as a driver, I don't wanna startle and concern other drivers. As a person walking with a dog, I don't wanna scare other people in the community or make them extra uncomfortable. I also wanna safeguard my dog, because one
Uh,
big negative experience
yeah.
is gonna take me months or years or a lifetime to fix, and
Yeah.
not fix, but to work through, and
Mhm.
and it may never be worked through.
Yeah. Yeah,
One of
and
my
it's
clients had their dog on a Sidekick, a young puppy. He's about 6 months old,
mhm.
like a Dane something cross. He's a goober. Shout out to Lauren and Benny. And they were walking along the street, and in front of a fraternity the day before yesterday in the evening, there was a massive car accident. The puppy jumped higher than his owner,
Mm.
and she was able to work through that in the moment
Great
and be
job,
like,
'cause that can be
wow,
and that
that
can be
was really big.
yep, huge, and that being able to do that, that is some of the magic of this tool, is it helps to give clear guidance, and if you have if you're looking at your average pet dog owner and you look at other tools, literally, the education and skill set that's required to do
Is
it
big.
properly, it's so high, like, it's so high, and I certified people in e-collar. Like, for years, I certified people in e-collar, and it was like for me, I was like I mean, that's a 5-day course to try and certify a trainer, and I still didn't feel like they were ready, at the end of that, let alone if you're training a client and you're doing, a 2-hour go-home lesson and you're being like, "Here you go, just press the button when you need to." It really what I found, and this is why I stopped working with e-collar, it was mostly because I found that no matter what I did with the dog and how magical I could make this tool because even when I started with e-collars, and my mentor was a gun dog trainer. That's who I learned
Gotcha.
e-collar but he had a very I mean, he was very savvy about it. His method was very, very mild, was very, very gentle. The way he touched dogs, the way he looked at dogs was just magical, I mean, I have so many memories. He passed away a couple years
I'm
ago.
sorry.
Really an amazing, amazing human being. But he taught me that you could be gentle in a lot of ways with a lot of different tools. And that's why I did get into the e-collar, but I got into the e-collar as a trainer and really wanting to learn all the very nuanced things about it. But then when I would teach a dog these very nuanced things about it and spend, a long time doing that, but then I would hand the client back, no matter with all good intention, that button always turned into a no, or they weren't using it at all. And I was like, well, this just kind of goes out the window. And then when I was doing a lot of shadow programs, which I've done a lot of shadow programs, I always found that my students were walking away utilizing more of the sidekick than anything else. Like they
Right.
really I was like, here you go, like this is the tool that they were vibing with. And I do feel the cultural shift happening,
Mhm.
like not just with this, but with a sidekick in general. Like me getting out there as a trainer, not just as a tool, because it's always just been sold as a tool. Gentle Leader was just a tool. Halty is just a tool. There wasn't, well, there is. I mean, there is a process behind it, but there's really nobody perpetuating that, like that it is an entire training ecosystem and that, it's like, it was sold and marketed as a gimmick. And I hate that because I hate that that is what I'm kind of like trying to push against. And as a trainer, you know the benefits of those tools. We know the benefits of those tools, but for me, marketing the sidekick and trying to get people out there and really, being grateful that I get to do things like this, being able to reach not just pet owners, but other trainers so that they can see the benefits of these tools and how it really is such a game changer for people. For people that are really struggling, this and even if they're not struggling, I mean, this is a tool that can just make such a difference in how much the dog gets out to walk, how much the dog gets out to experience, how much whether they're excitable, fearful, reactive. I mean, this just gives those opportunities to those dogs, and that is just the goal, and getting people past some of these myths and previous theories or nuances that they think about these tools that, oh, it's not a training tool, it's a management tool, it's a gimmick, it's this. It's like that is
Okay.
my struggle. That's
It
my struggle.
that stuff drives me crazy.
Does
Management is training.
it is.
It
It is.
is.
Yes,
Because
it is.
you're working to help the dogs stretch their skill without blowing them up,
Exactly. Yep. And I just
right?
gave a
And
presentation
I
yesterday.
wear a knee brace to be clear. I
Yeah,
wear a knee brace not because I am anticipating hurting my knee, but
right.
because I recognize that there's the potential that I could get injured,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I wear a
Yep.
seatbelt because there is the potential of someone making a catastrophic error, including
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
So, this idea that helping the dog and supporting the dog isn't training is just ludicrous.
Well, but it's you're seeing also the funny thing about that is like, okay, well, then your dog is not wearing a collar or a leash or a prong collar or an e-collar. Like, how is that training compared to
Right. Because does the
like,
dog know
why
whether or not a prong collar's on? You
so if
betcha.
if the prong collar is on, it's training. If an e-collar is on, it's training. If a sidekick is on, it's management. Tell me how that makes sense. I'm like, okay. But I think because I'm battling a lot of that type of like just no pull, quick fix gimmick, which I tell people straight up, it is not a quick fix. Can it be with a lot of dogs? Absolutely. Because a
Yes.
lot of dogs go, oh, thank you. You're giving me some clear guidance. And
Right.
they just, it just vibes really quickly. But it's not always like that. I still prefer you know, just that, hey, this is kind of the beginning of building the relationship. And then everything that I teach past that, there's stuff beyond the leash. It is a whole dog approach. It's how to start utilizing your eye contact, your body language, layering in that verbal obedience, how to create the recall. It's not just about this tool. It is about the mindset that it starts so that you do get through to not just this quick fix gimmicky thing, but you have an entirely better relationship with your dog. It becomes a lifestyle. It's not just about obedience, it is about behavior, and it is about shifting the demeanor of the dog to the point that everybody's happy. The dog's happier, the human's happier, the household is happier.
So what do you so when someone has a dog who maybe is more resentful about it and they
Yeah.
call your customer service line and go, "Hey, this isn't working for my dog." What's the very first thing you would say to them? I mean, I know what I would say, but what's the very first thing that your team would say to that handler?
Usually the first things are just giving them kind of those tips about slowing down, because a lot of times they're just throwing it on and they're just trying to go for a walk, and so they've never even given the dog an opportunity to understand what this thing is on their face. Maybe they're giving too much leash, they're not creating, the relationship, or even the process of teaching your dog that this thing going on their face, what it means, builds a better relationship. So, we kind of go through that process of, well, are you moving too fast? Have you taken time? Have you watched videos? We'll usually send them straight to our learning portal on our website, which has a bunch of just free videos on there. But we do ask a lot of questions, just trying to see where they're struggling. But usually the number one thing where people are struggling is that they're just moving too fast. They just really didn't take the time to do that first step for me, which is teach calm. Maybe that first step for you is just conditioning just the tool, just getting the dog comfortable with having it on. And just like I said, if anyone in any realm of training or methodology, if they take what they know about training dogs and they apply it to the sidekick and they utilize it and they condition the dog to it, that already is going to change the relationship. That already is figuring out a better way to connect with your dog, because realistically, what this does, Tina, is it sets a tone for the rest of the dog's life. The existence around it. It's not just about walking. Just like I said, it really is. It sets a tone of how do we communicate better with our dog? How do we get our dog to respond to things that maybe they don't like? And for me, I do feel that putting dogs that stress can be a benefit to creating resilience.
Well,
You know,
there's
oh,
stress and there's you stress, right? Like
exactly.
there's good stress and there's not great stress.
Yes,
So
yeah.
putting them in a stretching position where they get to stretch their skill a little bit and go, yeah, I nailed it.
Yes,
Oh my
build
goodness,
confidence.
that's so reinforcing. Like I have
Yes.
seen so many dogs go, did you see what I just did? I
Yeah,
did it.
yeah,
Like it was
yeah.
great. And I'm like, you're doing great. What a smart kiddo you are, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
so we know that in ourselves. Think about the
Mhm.
times that you did something that you were like, I don't know if I can do this. Me,
Right.
the first time on a podcast. Oh, I'm going to
Well,
let
that's
the
not
cursey
good.
words out, right? Like it's going to be terrible. They're going to have to bleep me. And
And
here
one of
I
the
am,
things
you know,
yeah, you're
coming
doing
up
it.
with other ways to say things.
And when I think about, like, that conversation right there, where when people, talk about, like, "Oh, my dog hates it," like, the fuss, that for me is predictable stress that we can help navigate the dog through. Because it's you helping to guide the dog through an uncomfortable situation, like, "Hey, buddy, just relax. I've got it. So working through that initial fuss phase when the dog is struggling, it does set the tone for, hey, when you're out on a walk and the dog sees another dog across the street and they want to get excitable, you've already set the tone to say, hey, I got this. I need you to calm down. So it's not as it's we're literally just helping, kind of creating this artificial stressor on the dog, a very simple artificial stressor for the dog to help them become resilient to pressure, to stress, to say, "Hey, I can do that." Or instead of going in a fight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a sitting position and I'm going to look at that dog walking by. And then I'm not just going to look, I'm going to try and smell the air. Then I know that the dog has really taken advantage of that. They go from that sight, kind of prey naughtiness to a lot softer, wanting to sniff, wanting to use their
Right.
nose and put something on
Breathing.
the arm. Yeah, actually
Breathing.
breathing. Yeah. So I mean, I feel like that initial, phase of guiding the dog through having this on their face does set the tone for being able to guide them through a much more difficult type of stressor, that they may experience. And with that, it's saying, "Hey, I can handle you. You can handle this. I got you." Then the same thing once we get out there and we come across them like that, "I got you." And it just helps the dog feel a lot more comfortable. So people want to try and avoid that part of the process a lot, I notice. And I'm like, don't avoid it. Let it be part of the process, because fuss, fight, avoid, and then moving into understanding is part of the process. And for me, most training ends at avoidance, and it doesn't really
And
matter the tool.
that's right. Like
It,
avoidance. Okay. So if you want to do it with avoidance, that's
yep,
fine. But your dog's world and your world gets really small.
yes, and it's a
I
small.
may tell you to avoid for a
Yes,
while we're
yeah,
building some skills and some exercises and some options and
yeah.
handling skills. Because
But
I
wait, the way that I'm saying avoid is I'm saying the dog practicing avoidance, not the
gotcha.
physical
Oh,
human.
okay.
So like for me, so in the process, so once I get the dog sitting next to me, the next thing that always happens 100% of the time, the dog will go into avoidance, which basically mentally the dog's like looking away, their posture's a little frumpy. It looks like I canceled their birthday. And that part of the process is saying, you know what? I get that we're doing something together, but there's no way that I'm just going to jump on board with what you're doing without you proving to me that you're going to be consistent about it. So when they not just us doing avoidance, when they go into avoidance, that's when I say, okay, well, this is part of the process. But what happens is that's kind of an avoidance can be and definitely is a better option for the dog to take over fight
Agree.
and over fuss, right? So when I can get them working through that fight and fuss, and then they go and choose to take that other option of, hey, I'm just going to sit down here, but I'm not 100% on board. But then once I start walking and moving, and I'm very consistent with my timing. I'm very consistent, and trust me, it's not hard to do, especially on this tool. And I'm very consistent with my timing, and I'm very consistent with my release of pressure. I'm very consistent with my calm body language. The dog starts to go into understanding. And for me, what that looks like is we're walking along, and the dog will kind of just be hanging out, and then they start to give me these little glances. And I'm not getting this as food. I'm really getting it because the dog is starting to go, you know what?
This
This
isn't
isn't
so
so
bad.
bad. Yeah, so they start giving me that look of, I want information. Like now I'm starting to see that this information. So then when I get to that point where now, as I'm walking and they're starting mentally to move into understanding, when I stop and I get them into that sitting position, instead of going into avoidance, they start going, "What's up?" Like then they start looking, and for a dog to truly look at you on their own accord is not an easy task. It is not an easy task,
Oh,
especially.
I would disagree there. I would say that that is the simplest thing to
Well,
teach most dogs.
but I would say there's different.
And I do a lot of shaping, so a
Yes.
lot of
Yeah,
what I'm asking my clients to do is to
yeah,
stow their, expectations and demands and to give the dog space and time to process that they
yeah,
can offer behavior because that
yes,
behavior gives us information. Like a dog that chooses to sit is in a different headspace than a dog that chooses to lay down and roll on a hip,
Oh, 100%.
which is also in a different headspace from the dog that's pulling at the end of the leash or twirling next to you. The dog that's offering, looking at you, and me going, thank you for that. That's beautiful. I love that. Is huge because, again, a lot of the dogs that
Yes.
are coming to me have had really heavy-handed treatment. They've been told no
Yeah.
1,000
Yeah.
times a day more than they've been told yes. And so I'm going to backfill that data for them of, "No, we're good. Like, I am a soft place for you to land, and I've got your back." And I'm hearing from you, you're doing it without treats, which is great. I'm gonna do it with treats because, again, I'm dealing with the average mom and dad and grandma.
Yeah, and I will say, and I can probably share a lot of experiences with you of a dog who's looking at me for a treat versus a dog who's looking at me because they're looking for information.
Right,
And
and
it's a different,
there
yeah, it's a
is,
very different
absolutely. Which is why I don't
so
ever
I
I don't ever lure it
oh,
or ask for it. It
yeah.
is
Yeah,
always
and
strictly offered.
yeah, and definitely, I mean, what I'm looking for at that point, because I don't want the dog always looking back at me.
Of
Like
course.
my to go into that understanding is that their mind is calmer, they're checking in for information, but also I never want them to be afraid to look out into the
Into
environment.
the world.
Which is
Yes.
yeah, which is a lot of times what I mean by if we're teaching avoidance, or sometimes we might be the biggest distraction for the dog to have
The
that time to
process.
look.
Yeah.
We don't even give the opportunity. So a lot of the times, I post a lot of videos of let them look. Like I say, just let them look because with the sidekick, if they're struggling to look, you have options. You have options, but at least give them the time to look so that they can go over that little stress adrenaline hump and then go and then be able to start sniffing, smelling, breathing, dropping their mouth open, going into more of that calmer mindset. And a lot of times we distract at this point here and we call them back to us. We give them food. We give them a pop on the leash. We hit them on the e-collar because we're afraid of what's going to happen. We're afraid, is this going to go up here or is it, and we don't let that always come down and around. So I definitely practice a lot of hanging out,
Mhm.
chilling with the dog,
Me too.
letting
Lots of
letting
we're just gonna watch the world go by.
yeah, let them look at the environment, and as you're working on the sidekick, I mean, it just makes it so much easier to let them do that because you have a way and a process to that mental mind shift of, "Hey, chill out, calm down." It's not easy on a lot of other tools, it's just not. So this just gives you that little that advantage to be able to help that dog and guide that dog better. So, I mean, we're all doing the same thing and have the same goals, and that is the goal is like, hey, if that dog can intake the information and still look at it, that's what I mean when I say I don't want training to end at avoidance, where we're always trying to get the dog to look at us, where we're always trying to get the dog to look away. It's like, for me, the end goal is I need the dog to look calmly at the things that made them uncomfortable,
Well,
like,
and to give the
right?
handler feedback about, like, where am I? Like,
Mhm.
where's my brain in all this? Like, how I think that training well, first, I would really love a shift to it go from training to teaching, because
Yeah.
it really is
Oh, yeah.
teaching. If I
Yeah.
thought I could run a business that was called Sit Happens Dog Behavior and Teaching, I totally would, but I think
Yeah.
people wouldn't understand, right?
Yeah.
Because they have this, like, "I'm gonna control the dog" mindset, and what I would say is, d if when you do it right, when you do it cooperatively,
Yeah.
you don't have to control them, and the amount of pushback you get is significantly
Oh,
less.
100%. Well, and the
I
dog
absolutely
voices.
believe in giving a dog the opportunity to tell me no, and for me to say, "Good job. Thank you for giving me that information."
Yep. Yep.
The same way that if I asked you if you wanted a hug and you were like, "No, thanks. I'm kinda tactily sensitive," I would say, "Thank you," because if I
Yeah.
rushed in to give you a hug, you might slug me one.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So and frankly, we're modeling this for our kids. So one of the things I love is that you have I think you said a 5-year-old and an 11-year-old, so you're in the thick of it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so mamas and dads and grandmas and grandpas who are listening to the podcast, I want to invite you to an idea of how I'm using the Sidekick when I am working with kids with mom and dad or grandma and grandpa or aunt or uncle or whoever. So I give the child a regular collar that is attached to the dog's collar, and I'm holding the Sidekick so that I can help foster gentle handling and manners with that child. And I just tell the child my leash is just there for safety, right? Because scary things happen sometimes,
Yeah,
right?
that's great.
Kids get distracted and drop the leash, or the dog takes advantage of, like, hey, the pipsqueak's on the leash, so I'm going to go chase that squirrel because I know I outweigh Bob. And I'm
Right.
like, "No, no, 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 ha, 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 ha. No, no, no. We're all members of the same family and we're on the same team." And frankly, if I had a nickel for every time a child got distracted, and the dog very easily could have pulled the child down,
Yeah.
and then I have a child who's afraid of the dog they live with, that's not something I wanna build.
Well, it
So,
sucks.
how do you do it when, like, your 5-year-old who wants to help wants to walk the dog and you're like, okay." Are you doing it similarly?
Yeah, well, I
Or are
guess
you just handing your 5-year-old the Sidekick?
well, both my 5 and my 11-year-old can walk all of our dogs, so it's pretty good. My youngest dog, Zoe, she could be a little bit tricky. So my youngest, if I know we're in a more kind of complicated area, and I literally live in what is called Dogtown, USA. So there are dogs everywhere. I'm saying you cannot. I mean, I live out in the middle of nowhere, but when we're in town, which we're there all the time, I have my dogs. There are just dogs everywhere. So, and my dog is she's pro-social, but she's the chick that will slug you if you come and try and give her a hug. So she doesn't like when dogs, are coming up to her too fast on the leash. She also doesn't like when people are looking at her, so she'll growl. And so in those scenarios, I always just set myself up for success and I'm handling her because I want to guide her through something like that. But if we're just out here around on the property, my kids, they're pretty good handlers, so they've had lots of practice, so it
But I'm
works out.
talking about, like, the average family, not a dog trainer's kids.
I mean, even, like, I love having kids in appointments, so usually our first appointment, we don't have the kids come because it's the boring stuff. It's literally I say I will never get a TV show because my training style is like watching paint dry.
Right.
It's
No,
not exciting.
done
Yeah.
well, dog training is completely boring.
No,
There's
it's
not
not
a lot of
exciting.
conflict. It doesn't really
No.
look like you're doing anything, and yet
Yeah.
it's like a duck, right? Like,
Yeah.
my brain is going a million miles a minute. My
Yeah.
body is very still.
Yeah, and kids are like, so they're bored in that first session. So I always tell the parents, I say, bring your kids back for the second session. It's usually about a week later. They've been practicing. At that point, we've usually had their dog back a couple days. And then when the kids come back in, I'm super excited to get them involved in the handling. So I do show them how to handle. I
They're
just show
pretty
them.
good dog trainers.
Yeah, and usually we're inside, so I'm teaching them how to, get the dog comfortable with them, and the relationship that develops, the great thing about the Sidekick is it's very translatable. Like, once the dog understands, you can pretty much hand that leash over to anybody, and the dog will continue to do those behaviors. It's not, maybe there'll be a little bit of fuss here and there, but I love watching the relationship go with the kid. Like, the first time the kid gets the dog to sit down next to them, and then I do have them practice Zen zone, so using, getting them into the sitting position onto a bed. But I love working with kids because I feel like if they're on board with what's going on with the dog, I love it.
Then
And
the
and I
whole
do.
family does better.
Yes, 100%.
So I have been, other than with my dogs that are already trained and not reactive and whatever, I've been hesitant to use the longer line version of the Sidekick. So I'm going to be selfish and say, talk to me about that and calm my mama heart that because for example, the ways that I have seen a gentle leader go bad is when the dog's on a long line. I always tell people, if you have a gentle leader, do not use a long
Yeah.
line at the same time. That could be fraught.
Mhm.
So talk to me about how the Sidekick is different so that my heart settles a little bit about that and that I'm more comfortable understanding that tool better.
Okay, explain that one more time. So the long, like going to a long from the
Well,
Sidekick?
I bought a version of the Sidekick, and
Okay.
maybe it was old. I don't
Oh,
know.
mine too. Yeah.
that's a really long line. Like, it was a deluxe package, so it came with, like, a 6-foot leash, what
Okay,
is
so that's
intended to be a
yeah,
6 foot,
so
and then one that's probably 15 or 20 if I had to guess.
so that's just a long line, so it's not the Sidekick. So
Oh,
it's a
it has the Sidekick end on it.
it shouldn't. I mean, anything with a 15-foot on it, check it out again because I don't make it in a long version.
Okay,
It's the only thing that's coming out is the 8-foot.
which I'm so excited about.
I actually have the one prototype, and I've been working with my dog Zoe, and also excitingly too, I have another product, a hands-free product that'll pair directly with that. And I just had my dogs out on it yesterday, with the 8-foot, and it's fantastic. So it's
Well, if you
gonna.
wanna send me a prototype, I'll pay for it.
I will tell you, these prototypes are about $2,000 a piece.
Holy guacamole, maybe I won't.
So that's just to make the prototype for the hands-free product, but
Wow.
the 8 foots will be coming out at the beginning of the year, and I will tell you, I really struggled with putting out an 8-foot because I was so worried, and maybe this will kinda come around to your question. I was just so worried about because to me, it's a training leash. I want the dog, kind of close. I want the dog not having too much, and if you want to have them have more space, buy a long line, right? Like then, okay, once they get comfortable with that. And I talk about my process goes into what we call supportive shadowing, which is, once the dog understands, hey, don't pull on the leash, then you go to the slip lead or you go to the long line. So now you've got those exploring walks where the dog is being able to be out on either the clip leash, out on their collar, but not compromising, not putting pressure onto that tool, not pulling, not being crazy. So that's the progression for me is going from the Sidekick to the slip lead version of the Sidekick, practicing that supportive shadowing, and then being able to utilize the long line. So then the long line you can practice that the recalls and things like that, but it's after the dog already understands, hey, don't yank around on the leash. So that's when I'm using food. That's when I'm using recall. That's when I'm using, a lot of opportunities for the dog to really kind of sniff and explore and smell. And so
Right.
that one, the long line and the dynamic duo. So the duo comes in 6-foot and 8-foot versions, and then the long line comes in 15 and 25-foot. Um, and for both of those ones, they do have a clip on the end. I should have something in here. They have a clip on the end and then also a ring that goes onto it, so it can be used as a slip collar, as well. So it's,
Oh,
so
so
it's kind
maybe that's what I saw and read it. My brain went, "Oh, it's just like the other one."
yeah,
And
and for me, with the
because
8
my brain literally went like, I'm not," and I just
uh,
used it as a regular long line because I
that's
don't use
perfect.
slip leashes except for, like, if I have a customer's dog that's in just for boarding,
Yeah, moving them
I'm
around.
gonna I'm gonna use the slip leash because I don't
Yeah.
wanna lose the dog.
No, God, no, and that's, that's why they exist, is you don't wanna lose them, so
Right,
it's a
but I don't really use a slip leash for training.
It's yeah, and honestly, it's the reason why I like having the transition from the head collar to the slip lead is mostly because when they get down to that slip lead, there should be little to no pressure on the leash.
Right,
You know what I mean? So if there's a lot of pressure, they're not ready for that.
right,
They're just ready. So that's the nice thing about it, is it's like, okay, well, as the dog's behavior develops, then you can
right.
switch. And on the Sidekick too, I'm sure you're aware of this, but on the Sidekick too, if you just slide the, S hook, it won't lock. Like,
Right.
it won't on the dog. So that was actually at APDT, a lot of people really loved that feature.
Yes,
Um,
that it takes the pressure off.
yeah, there's
If
no
if
it won't
all we ever do is keep increasing pressure, the dog's gonna explode or the dog's gonna completely fall apart.
well, and with the slip lead, you're kind of falling back into the slip lead is a very hard tool. It requires a lot of good
Of
timing.
skill.
There's a lot of skill. It just requires a lot, and it's definitely not for everybody. So
Yeah.
that's where, the Sidekick as the head collar is just a much simpler, more effective tool, even in the most novice hands.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I would agree, right? Like a slip leash, there I mean, pretty much any tool can be pushed to a point that it's profoundly unkind and unfair and
Yeah.
unsafe.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and
It's
so
not
I'm
the
sensitive to that. And I
yeah.
think I'm hearing that you are too, that
Yeah,
the
oh, absolutely.
goal is not well, again, you do horses, I did horses growing up too, and that pressure is information, it doesn't mean pain. I'm not
Right.
hurting the animal. I'm helping the dog understand. And frankly, a muzzle you by a mama dog
Yeah.
is what a head collar does,
Exactly. Yep. And
right?
that's it,
And
it's
mom
just
doesn't clamp down. She just
no.
sets her mouth there and goes, knock it off. Like, you need
Yeah.
to help yourself get under control. So,
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know, when moms pick up a toddler and put them in air jail, right?
Air
You're
Jam.
not hurting them. You're just like, I'm going to pick you up because you're going to lose your marbles and it's going to be a problem. And then we're all going to be mad.
Yeah, and
So,
it's mind shift. It's the mind shift that comes along with that across the bridge of the nose contact point. I mean, it's just not comparable with any other tool, and that's where the success of the Geneleader came, the success of the Halti came, and the success of the Sidekick is coming because it does solve a lot more of the concerns that people have with some of those tools. So it's, and it's just better in form, fit, and function.
I
Like
love
one
that.
two sizes will fit dogs. It's funny. I always say, like, if I'm at a trade show, I always say two sizes will fit.
Being able to fit a Yorkie
Yeah,
puppy
yeah,
when I've got this sweet lady whose balance isn't great and she can't bend down to 4 inches from the floor,
right. Yes.
like, or even, I mean, so part of my health journey has resulted in I get vertigo, right?
Oh,
So
yeah, it's very
sometimes
hard.
I can't. Like, I can't. Like, if you want to watch me fall over, make me bend over that far.
Right.
So, and I don't care what anybody says. Teaching an itty bitty dog to walk on a loose leash, 1,000 times harder. Like,
Oh, yeah.
than walking a Great Dane on a loose leash or a Mastiff or a Cane
Yep.
Corso on a loose leash. Totally different thing.
Yep.
Totally different, right? Just trying to handle a dog that tiny is actually harder.
Well, and plus,
So much
what?
harder.
When I have guys, and sorry, it's not always guys, but when I have people that come to me for training and they are very, like, kind of cocky, I always give them a small dog to start on the tool because I'm like, you can't be physical, like you cannot because
Right.
most dogs you can physically overpower a dog, and I'm like, look. If you're overly physical with this tiny little muffin, you're gonna look like a jerk. So you know what I mean? So it forces them to have to be very gentle and very sensitive and think about, what pressure they're putting on that dog. And also with the mini version, what I was trying to say before is I had a client or somebody come up to me at the booth because I always say 5 pounds and all the way up. And they showed me a video of this amazing little Papillon, 3 pound little dog working on the mini Sidekick. So I was like, okay, now I can literally say 3 pounds and all the way up. So it was very, very cool. And the dog was crushing it. They said they used the dog as their demo dog for their classes. So they were like out, I think they were out at a dog friendly store with their class and they had the dog, like the little dog just prancing around like looking so great. Like I love it. I just love it. It makes
No, I
it makes
love it. I love that it gives the dog the freedom to learn fun things and tricks and all of that.
uh,
And that it's one of the things when I'm considering tools to talk to clients about is can you transition off of it if and when that time comes, right?
yeah.
And again, I think you can use a gentle leader for the life of the dog and you're fine. I don't care. I don't care. You can't do a
I don't
CGC
I don't
test
have a
on it, but you can. I don't have a problem with that. But what I will say is and part of the reason why is because the gentle leader does have the option of making the nose loop leash loose, flipping it down, and now it's just, and eventually transitioning to a regular collar. And that's a win.
yeah.
The sidekick's even better at it. It's
Yeah.
just, it's like
Yeah.
buttered unicorn breath.
I do a lot of my marketing works very heavily against the Gentle Leader because it is like it's the leading tool in the market and I really had to kind of push against one, like I'm like, well, I worked with the Halti a long time. And the reason that I didn't use the Gentle Leader as much as I did with the Halti was because I really liked the way that the Halti moved, the way that the Halti moved, the Gentle Leader is just so much more fixed that it didn't work how I wanted it to. So that was like, so when I talk about in my marketing, like things that the Gentle Leader does that the Sidekick kind of resolves, it's getting people and it's pissing people off that love the Gentle Leader. And I'm like, great. If you love the gentle leader, come try the sidekick. Like, you're the
Yes.
people I'm talking to.
Oh,
Like, if
yeah,
you
no, I'm a convert. I'm a
yeah,
convert,
I'm
and I love the gentle leader. What
that's what I
I so the reason the gentle leader is more fixed
yes, yep,
is to balance the pressure on the nose. So it's the reason it fits as statically as it does is so that it's hitting a pressure point on the back skull that
yep,
balances it so the dog's not constantly getting a correction, which is
right,
exactly why you like the movement of a halty, is
right,
because there's pressure and then pressure is released. So
right.
the gentle leader does a lot of things similarly.
Yeah,
It's not relying on a handler releasing the pressure the same
right.
way that a halty does. So when I tested both, I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, no, I like the gentle leader better because the human part of the equation, I can just say this is how it fits and they can do that. And then I know that even if they're maintaining a little bit of pressure on the leash all the time, the dog's not constantly getting a punishment because
yeah,
I am
uh,
sensitive to that. Because if all we ever do is tell the dog no, then any tool is going to fail. The dog's
yeah,
eventually just going to check out and go, I'm just waiting till I'm not wearing this and then I'm going to do whatever I want.
yes,
That's not, and you're right. The point, that's why I like teaching instead of training, that
yeah,
the goal is that I'm not constantly telling my dog what to do. My dog knows how to navigate the world and to come to me when
yes.
they have a problem and they need my support.
Yep. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, the gentle leader, and the halty, I mean, that's what put, that out there, but there just hasn't been much innovation in those
I
tools.
agree.
So
And
it's like,
actually,
that's
so
it it needed to happen. Like it
there was a lot more flexibility for trainers when Premier owned Gentle Leader because I could call my rep and go, "Hey, this is what I want. I don't want any of those narrow nose bands. I want all of them wide. I don't want narrow neck band. I want all of them wide. I I want this. I don't want that." And they would like go out on their warehouse floor and make for me. As a matter of fact, I have a custom made Gentle Leader that I will like if it ever dies, I don't know, I'll be in mourning. We will have a memorial service for this amazing best friend that I have.
yeah,
And the sidekick, since I have gotten a sidekick, I haven't used my really good friend.
I love that. Well, that's what I mean, is that's why, some of my marketing, just like I said, I mean, it's geared towards, it's meant to irritate people, that like the gentle leader. And it's
Okay,
like,
well,
okay,
don't be
well,
antagonistic to us. We're good people too.
no, I know, but
This is just
it's
magic. And if you're
I know.
willing to
Yeah.
try
Yep.
something
Yep.
different, have a willing spirit.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, my hardest thing is the people who think a harness is gonna solve everything, and I'm like, "I love you enough to put a sidekick on your dog and let you make a walk around the store with a sidekick on, and you tell me that this doesn't work better than
Right.
that harness."
Yeah. Well, in a harness, I mean, there's not a lot of communication going on. Like, you definitely have to have the skill set outside of what the harness is doing. Like, the harness is meant to just hold the dog, and then everything else in the training realm is
Right,
what
you've
you're
lost the dog's mind.
yes. Yeah.
Suzanne Clothier has an amazing quote that I love. She said it in front of me at a seminar of hers that I went to, that she said, "We start adding more and more equipment when we've lost the dog's mind." And I agree.
Yeah.
And a lot
Yeah.
of us
Yeah,
are
I always say that we
crossover.
collar up, we leash up, we strengthen up, like we just get
Yes. More and
heavier and
more
heavier
control
that we lose.
instead of more and more relationship and connection
Yeah.
and support.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you spent your part of your day with us today. And it
Been
is
good.
so one, congratulations, because you're blessing people and their dogs. If you're using a harness, if you're using a martingale collar, if you're using a gentle leader or a halty, I implore you to get a sidekick. And I'm not, to be clear, I'm not getting shiz. Like I'm just telling you,
Oh,
a customer made me a convert, and
that's all.
I delight in this tool. There's so much amazing about it that if your hands hurt, if you have a long coated breed, if you have a really powerful dog, if you have balance issues, if you have kiddos, if you're often trying to push a stroller and walk a dog at the same time, this tool is a game changer for your relationship with your dog and your life with your dog. And finding a great trainer who can help you is also a huge piece of this because, like parenting, is something that we often have to learn new skills in
Yep.
order to match the unique, amazing kiddo in front of us. The same thing is true with our dogs. There's a reason I use it interchangeably. Kiddo is a kiddo. Um,
Mhm.
because we really are parenting and living with our dogs as family members, not just as tools on a farm anymore. And I think that that can be really magical. And it also can be a tremendous amount of stress on the dog, which is how the podcast started.
I definitely have to say thank you because it's trainers like you, who, when being brought something new and something different, don't just automatically assume it's crap or it's junk or it's a gimmick. You really were open-minded enough to go, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to try this tool. And, I feel like, in the training community and for dog owners, I mean, it just does a better service for all of us to be exactly who you are and who you represent is, being open-minded and reaching out for other solutions. And I'm so happy that it brought you to me, and I'm so happy that we've gotten to connect today. And man, we could do this. We could definitely do this all day. I know.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm pretty sure you and I will be on again together. You
yes,
definitely have a different mindset than a lot of the trainers we talk to, and I'm sensitive to there are a lot of ways to do this. I
definitely.
just always think kinder is better, and what I hear from you is that while you have um, a different mindset, that kindness piece is at the very core of what you're
100%.
doing. And so, yeah, like you have my respect because there are a lot of people out there who are just really heavy handed with dogs and hurt them in order to gain compliance. And I don't hear that in anything you're talking about. So, um, it's wonderful. I also love that horse training is becoming kinder too. Because, man, that was an industry that needed to have some major adjustments as well. Like, I've watched some things that people do to horses to gain compliance that is like horrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Well, and on another podcast, at some point, we can talk about my animals now. So I moved past horses. So I have camels, and yeah, we won't get into it today, but I have camels. So everything that I like when I do shadow programs and workshops, like, part of my program is coming to handle my camels because it doesn't work. So when I get people to come out and they get to really experience what it's like to handle an animal like that, and how it translates to everything that I learn and everything that I teach, it's very magical. So that's
Well, it's like positive reinforcement trainers going to chicken camp.
exactly. Yeah, except they're coming to camel camp. So I do teach practical camel academy as well. So, and I have a Texas Longhorn that I train for riding. I also have a donkey. So I am a perpetual student. And dogs, I love working with dogs, but these guys, maybe that would be another fun episode, is
That
talking
would be a really fun episode. We'll have
about
to get that on the books. Because,
how
yeah,
I
that sounds like wicked fun.
it
Um,
is fun.
I'll have to look more into it. I'm trying it's so hard as a sole proprietor to get away
I
and to
hear
be able to go do these things, so I have to do so much via video, and
you.
I have desperately wanted to go to chicken camp, and now I'm thinking I wanna play with a camel,
Yes,
um,
me too.
or a Texas Longhorn.
World it'll open your world for sure.
Well, and what I would say is training other species so my cat actually
Mhm.
has
Yep,
a
we got
lot of
our cat.
training. And I've really so maybe you can noodle on this and give me feedback. I've really wanted to run a goldfish camp. I
Oh, that'd be
just can't figure out how we would transport the fish
safe.
without stressing the tar out of them, right?
Yes.
But they like on the Zon, you can purchase um a goldfish training kit for your kid. And I want to say like so when I do get the shock collar, prong collar people, I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, here, train this
yes,
goldfish. Let me know how that works for you.
come back to me.
Yeah,
Come
come
back.
back to me. Um,
Yeah.
so what's the best way to find your product?
Definitely going to heathersheroes.com. Online, everything is there. The Sidekick's on there. Also, all of our educational stuff. So I'm available. I've got some different online courses. I also will be in Palm Springs March 1st, doing it in person. It's a 2 hour thing, but we'll be dealing with dogs. It's going to be pretty great. So if anyone's in that area, would love to have you guys in May. I will be in Spotsylvania. So I love dealing in person because I feel like that's really fantastic. But I'm also at a bunch of different trade shows, things like that. But most of that stuff will be listed on my website.
Well, and
So
maybe I'll see if you want to come to little old Athens, Georgia, and
I
we can
doing in person
introduce the
stuff.
vet school to some new tools.
Yeah, I would love that because people always talk about, oh, vets hate this. I'm like, no, vets love it. They love being able to have dogs come in calm and compliant, being able to be calm in a very stressful situation and being able to have handlers that can handle them better. Our tool is making a huge impact. It is vet approved. So, yeah, I would love that. That would be great.
Okay. Well, thank you for spending your precious time with us today. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that we'll have you on the podcast again because, yeah, you quickly made it to a list of my favorites. So thank you.
Same girls.
And, and we'll see you next time on the Your Family Dog podcast.